point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. We are doing the 528th, yeah, that's right, 528th edition today, recorded on the 22nd of, this says 22nd of July. It's not the 22nd.
No, June.
January, February, March, April, May, June. 6. Yes. It's the 22nd of June, and I'm not thinking straight. So, but that's normal. When you get to my age, you're not required to think straight anymore. Isn't that right, Tom?
Yeah, I can't think straight anymore, that's for sure.
Okay, so we're in business. Let's go. We're starting on the 15th of June, and I should explain the stuff to people who happen to be new here. Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and Tom Fennell, the amazing Tom Fennell, also known as the Invisible Man. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tom is doing this from home. That's mostly because he's lazy. Am I right about that, Tom?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Anyway, we're talking about the news relating to energy, and this comes from my blog, geoharvey.com. And you can go to geoharvey.com, go to the date. You can click on the calendar to get to the date and see what's there. You can also go down on the screen if you're watching this on a computer, and which I think a lot of people do, and see about a file you can download, which would be called Energy Week 528, or a website that you can go to, which would be also called Energy Week 528.
Have clickable links, don't they?
Yeah, they have. Both of them have clickable links.
And some of these links are well worth following up on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Some of them wrong.
Yeah. So there you have it. And we're starting today, June, with news for June 15th. And our first item is a picture of Lake Oroville. And I'm going to put that up so people can see it.
Yeah, because I can't control the pictures, but I can control what I say about them.
Yeah, the only thing is...
Lake Oroville.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what? I didn't click on the timer, so I don't know what time it is. I'm going to have to... I'm just going to have to do the best I can.
25 after 1.
What's that?
The time I've got is 25 after 1.
Yeah, I've got it. You want to start again, Tom?
What do you mean?
Well, I didn't click on the timer.
Oh, okay. Well, let's start again.
Okay, let's start again. All right, let's do that. Okay. And I'm going to have to tell Nolan that I have started again.
He can figure that one out.
Well, it's better to tell him so that he knows. Okay. I have clicked on the timer. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Energy Week with George Harvey, me, and the amazing Tom Fennell, who is invisible.
In the flesh, but not in the studio.
That's right. Tom is staying home because he's lazy. That's what he just told me was true. So what we're doing here is news on energy and climate change for the week starting the 15th of June. And this is news that is found at my blog, geoharvey.com. 3 items a day. We're recording this on the 22nd. So this is from the 15th of June to the 21st of June. And if you look down on a screen, if you're watching this on a computer, you'll should find a link to a website called Energy Week number 528, and also a file that you can download with the same name. And those two are full of live links, should be full of live links. Every once in a while, something goes wrong. And you can click on those links to get to the original of the articles that we're talking about.
Well, some of these articles, if you've got the time, are well worth looking up because they're full of good information.
Yes, indeed.
Long.
What's that?
Some of them are quite long.
Some of them are long, yeah. And, you just read the first paragraph and throw the rest away. Anyway, our first article has a picture of Lake Oroville, and we've had photographs of Lake Oroville before. This is a reservoir in California.
Really dry.
Yeah, it was bone dry, except for a creek running down the middle. And the creek might have been 10 feet across. That's, what we're looking at now is what had been a creek 10 feet across. This is from CNN. What do you have for title, Tom?
California's Lake Oroville is back at 100% capacity after being hit hard by a year-long drought.
Years long, multiple years. California drought-stricken reservoirs recovered remarkably in recent months in a barrage of storms. Now that's important.
Yeah, barrage of storms is what's been happening.
Yeah, Lake Oroville, California's second largest reservoir, is at 100% of its capacity after being critically low for several years. It is the state's hardest hit reservoir. And by the way, it is at this point in the year rarely at 100% capacity. It's usually at more like 80, 83%, something like that. And so
that's good news.
It's over full. Well, the thing is, it is at that capacity because of these atmospheric rivers that were hitting California in recent months. That
We
just
talked about them.
Yeah, we did. Dumped enormous amounts of snow, dumped enormous amounts of rain, filled up the reservoirs. But the underlying drought that caused the problem of the lake almost going bone dry completely and very nearly going, the underlying problem of the drought has not gone away.
It's still there.
The atmospheric rivers are a product of climate change just as much as the drought is. It's just, climate change is more like climate going weird.
Well, just to mention it, climate is what happens over a long period of time, and weather is what happens on a daily basis.
Yes, that is correct. So you can, and the thing that I tell people is the fact that we have record low temperatures does not mean that we aren't in a period of global warming. Every year, it's over 8,000 meteorology stations in the United States. And every year, you have stations setting the new record low for the 2nd of March, whatever. Every day, there could be a high or a low record for every station. And in a normal climate period, you would expect the same number of lows as you have of highs. But we aren't having the same number anymore. We're having, for every record low we have, and we still have them, we have 10 record highs. That is not good.
10 to 1? No, that does not sound good at all.
No, it doesn't. Okay, we're going to go to another article, which is at Clean Technica. Here's a picture of a cargo ship.
Looks like it to me.
Yeah, this is from Unsplash, which means that I didn't get it with the article. I went out and found a picture. But, here it is. What?
It's a good picture.
You like it? Well, it was the best of the ones that I found. So what do you have for title?
Marine environment at risk due to ship emissions.
Right, and this was disturbing to me. A study by Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden says the release of metals and other environmentally harmful substances by ships poses a significant threat to marine ecosystems. Over 90% of the contaminants was from water discharged by ships' exhaust scrubbers.
So they're scrubbing the exhaust and then dumping it back into the sea.
Yeah, what sense does that
It
make?
makes a lot of sense to me.
No, well, the law says you got to have scrubbers, but it doesn't tell you where you have to put the stuff you scrub out. And
you don't want to do it in your front yard.
yeah, right. Just so you know, I actually built a scrubber once. Me myself.
Yeah.
For a chemical company, they had chemical reactions that were producing chlorine gas, and they wanted to have that scrubbed so it wouldn't get out into the air around the plant. Chlorine is not nice to breathe.
No, I don't think I like chlorine.
No, it's not nice to breathe. I mean, it's okay when it's in table salt, but when it's a gas, you don't want it. And basically, the scrubber was a pipe that went up about 20 feet, about 1.5 feet across. It was full of little things that looked like plastic springs, and I mean full, all the way to the top. And the bottom of it was in a drum full of caustic soda, which is lye, basically. And there was a pump there, and the pump pumped this sodium hydroxide, caustic soda, up to the top of the stack, and then the liquid just went down through all these little springs, covered them. So the chlorine was sucked into the bottom or near the bottom of this, just above the tank, and it went up to the top.
It was deposited.
What's that?
And you deposited it.
Well, what happens is, as the chlorine gas goes by all this lye, almost 100% of the chlorine was reacted chemically with the lye, with the
to salt.
Yeah, and it made it into salts, multiple salts, one of which was sodium hypochlorite, and that was extremely destructive to the pump impellers. So I had to change the pumps impellers on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. But that's what a scrubber is. The scrubber is something that scrubs the gases. So we should keep going, shouldn't we?
I think we should, kid. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a nice picture coming up here of what are those things?
Those look like wind turbines to me.
Look like them to me too.
Yeah, that is Golden, Colorado. It's so believable because of the mountains in the background. Golden, Colorado is the site of the NREL test laboratories. And this is from Clean Technic also. What do you have for title?
Global wind industry reaches 1 terawatt milestone in June.
All right.
1 terawatt is 1,000 gigawatts. And gigawatt is bigawatts.
Yes, that's right. 1,000 gigawatts is more capacity than all of the nuclear power plants in the world put together.
So what we're talking about here is capacity, capability.
That's right. The nuclear power plants will produce more electricity because the wind doesn't always blow.
Okay.
So there's a capacity factor which tells you what the capacity, how much of the time the plant operates at full capacity. And I should say what portion of the theoretical capacity it's actually outputting. That's the capacity factor. And
that's the max.
For nuclear power worldwide, it's about 83%. For wind power, it varies a lot, from about 35% to about 50%. So a gigawatt of wind power might not produce as much electricity as 400 megawatts of nuclear power, maybe 450, might even be 500 at this point. But
you're not using up any fuel, and you're not dumping stuff into the atmosphere.
And you're also not producing waste that's going to take hundreds of thousands of years to become non-toxic. This is from Renewable Energy Magazine. You have a title, Tom?
Global wind industry reaches 1 terawatt milestone in June.
Yep. It has taken over 40 years to reach the 1 terawatt milestone, although the continual gain in momentum, with that continual gain, the next terawatt will probably take less than 7 years to install. Data from the global... What?
That's progress.
It sure is. This is according to data from the Global Wind Energy Council. The council is organizing events to mark the achievement. They didn't decide to have one in Brattleboro. They don't know about Brattleboro.
Well, it's a good accomplishment.
It is. If they knew about Brattleboro, they might have come in. They
Right.
might even have sent somebody in to be on the show.
Yeah?
Anyway, we are up to Friday, June 16th, for those who are following. Yeah.
There's a nice picture of some floating solar panels.
Yeah, let me put that up so people can see it. This is from Clean Technica, and you have a title.
I think I do. U.S. goes bonkers.
Bonkers.
Over floating solar power plants.
Yeah. First it was a trickle. Now it's a flood. U.S. energy planners are starting to catch up with floating solar trend, in which solar panels rest on lakes. That's kind of thing you see here. Also on reservoirs, other bodies of water. I think that's probably a reservoir. The technology could provide solar developers with another pathway for solar energy in rural areas.
Well, one of the problems, probably the only real problem with solar energy, is it takes up a lot of real estate.
Yeah, and
if you're using the real estate for something else at the same time, you're ahead again.
Yeah. Now, people will tell you the sun doesn't always shine, and that's true, but solar power predictably is generated every day at every installation because these panels will generate electricity from overcast skies.
Even on a cloudy day.
Yeah, cloudy day. It has to be one heck of a cloud for these things to shut down. Okay, are we done with that, Tom?
I think we are. Let's move on.
Okay, and we have a picture of a Foxconn, whatever that is. This is from BBC.
It's a company.
It is.
Company that made that car.
It's the company that made the car.
And it's in China.
And it's in China. Well, is it in China? It's in, I don't remember. I think this is actually in Taiwan.
Okay, could
Which
be.
is, I mean, that's
almost China.
That's almost China, yeah. So what do you have?
iPhone maker Foxconn to switch to cars as U.S.-China ties sour.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yes. iPhone maker Foxconn is betting big on electric cars and redrawing some of its supply chains as it navigates a new era of icy Washington-Beijing relations. We used to call that Peking, but we don't anymore. Chairman Young Liu said even as Foxconn shifts some of its supply chains away from China, EVs will drive its growth in coming decades. Now, they're putting these...
EVs are the future, let's face it.
Well, yeah.
The combustion engine is on its last legs.
Yes, I agree with you. They had various places listed of where Foxconn was going to be putting its... I guess I was wrong. It looks like this is in China. But they have various places they're putting up factories. And they include the United States. I think there's a factory going up in India, Indonesia, Malaysia, places like that. They've got lots of places to put their emphasis.
Let's move on.
Okay, let's do that. We have a picture here of a tuk-tuk.
That's what they call it. I never called it a tuk-tuk, but overseas, they're everywhere.
Yeah, and I've known for years, Tom, that was a tuk-tuk. I am very proud of myself.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay, this
is
obvious
why they call it a tuk-tuk.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Tom. That is not an English word. This is from Clean Technica.
It's a motorcycle with a cabin on it.
What's that?
It's basically a motorcycle with a cabin built on it.
Well, it's a tricycle. It's an electric, in this case, electric. The early ones were two-stroke gasoline-powered, and they would produce so much pollution, it was unbelievable. And you'd have a city.
Because that's what they sound like.
Ah, maybe. What do you have for a title?
If I can find it, here we go. Sri Lanka aims to reach 500,000 electric tuk-tuks.
Yeah. Tuk-tuks sure can be dirty vehicles, but some countries have a lot of them on the roads. Sri Lanka is one of those countries. Sri Lanka, by the way, for those older people like me and Tom, the older people might not recognize that name. It's been the name for years, but the old name is Ceylon.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Sri Lanka is one of those countries, and it is now looking to do something about the problem. Within the next 5 years, which is not all that long, Sri Lanka plans to convert 500,000 fossil-fueled tuk-tuks to electric tuk-tuks.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense.
Oh, absolutely, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay, should we go on?
Can't dance.
All right. We have
Saturday, 17, all day. And guess what's in that picture?
I don't know. What is it?
Wind turbines.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Quite a few of them, as a matter of fact.
What's that?
Quite a few of them, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely. There are a number of them there. That picture, as I recall, is from a place in Australia. So what do you have for title?
Renewable energy soars. Fossil fuels decline in electricity report.
Right. Renewable energy sources grew remarkably while fossil fuel-based electricity production declined. The International Energy Agency's monthly electricity statistics report shows fossil fuel generation declined 8.1% in the OECD, and nuclear generation was off by 3.1%. OECD is the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development.
Uh-huh.
If I've got that, if I remember that correctly. Now, it's interesting to me, we are going into the time when fossil fuels are actually in decline. And in fact, I had another headline come up about this today. It won't be in this show, but I think it'll be in next week's. And it's interesting also that nuclear power is in decline, despite all the work that China and Russia are doing, keeping it going.
That's a surprise.
Nuclear power is something that you can easily use to con somebody out of a few $1 billion. And I think that's what they're doing.
I think something like that is really what's happening.
Yeah, and I mean, you go to a country like Ghana or Kenya, and not Kenya, because Kenya's got so much renewable power, it's crazy. But you could go to a bunch of these countries and say to them, oh, the sun doesn't always shine. The wind doesn't always blow. And don't trust batteries because they're too expensive. We'll sell you a nuclear power plant. And it does remind me a little bit of used car dealers.
Well, you've heard me say this on this show several times.
Yeah.
It won't be too many years pass by before people say, back in those days, they used to burn fuel.
That's right. Now, I want to point out, when I say it reminds me of used car dealers, it doesn't remind me of any used car dealer I actually know or have heard about here in Brattleboro or in any of the communities around. It does remind me of used car dealers as they were always portrayed in movies and on television.
Yeah, there was always something a little bit shady about them.
Yeah. When Khrushchev was the premier of the Soviet Union, there was a show that came up on the Twilight Zone, I think it was, where he came to the United States and he wanted to be able to tell the people in Russia how backward the United States was. And the show was about a car that had been sold to a used car dealer, and the car had a curse on it. And the curse was that whoever owned the car could not tell a lie. So
that's a good one.
Khrushchev went to this car dealer and said, have you got any terrible cars here? And the car dealer said, that one's terrible. And Khrushchev said, if somebody buys that car, are they going to be unhappy with it? And the car dealer said something like, if you buy that car, you're never going to be more unhappy about any car you ever buy than that one. You know, that kind of argument in favor of selling the car. So Khrushchev bought the car, and in the final picture, the used car dealer is freed from the curse. And so you see him saying, "Goodbye, Mr. Khrushchev. I'm sure you'll love your car." Anyway, in those days, we weren't very nice to the Russians.
Well, in case people don't know what a wind turbine looks like, here's one.
Yeah, this is a wind turbine. There are wind turbines in the background on the horizon, but they're little bitty things. So this particular one is in Western Australia. This is from Clean Technica.
Australian wind farms. Solar set. First record of 20... I can't even read my own writing.
First record of 2023.
That's what it says.
That's what it says. It took me a little bit to figure out what it meant, but I did. Wind farms on Australia's eastern seaboard. I'm sorry, that wind farm was not in Western Australia. It was in Victoria, I think. Set a record of over 7 gigawatts on June 8th. That's a lot. Covering
Gigawatts.
Yeah, covering 30% of grid demand. Wind capacity has grown and more is coming online as Australia moves further into winter. Of course, it's winter in Australia now. Wind power is picking up. We can bet that more records will be broken. And yeah, we can bet that more records will be broken. No question about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, should I go to the next picture?
Yeah, this is a very interesting picture. It's got to explain what it is because it's kind of weird.
It's a little weird. And ladies and gentlemen who are viewing this show, if you see one of these guys around, don't bother trying to run away. Jump into a ditch and feel happy that you can come out muddy and alive.
Yeah.
Actually, if you were in a car and you saw one of these coming, it might be pretty easy to outrun it because they don't move all that fast in terms of moving across land. But that is a tornado.
Well, they move faster than you can run.
Faster than you can run, I could believe. Faster than you can drive, yes, but you're probably safer driving away than sitting on the side of the road in your car because they can toss.
If you like flying, it's great.
If you like flying, it's great. Absolutely, I agree. As long as you don't mind coming down suddenly. This is from the BBC.
How Tornado Alley is changing.
Perryton, Texas was torn up by a tornado. That's the beginning of the article. The latest research suggests that such incidents are set to become more common across the United States. Though the central states currently witness more tornadoes than anywhere else, in the future, the main area of peril is also likely to include the southeast. Tornado Alley is widening.
That includes Florida, doesn't it?
I don't know. I really don't know. It certainly includes Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, maybe Georgia. I don't know if it goes to Florida. I was born in Kansas, so the house that Dorothy lived in, at the beginning when everything was gray, that was like across the street from where we lived. But there were a lot of tornadoes. And also I was raised to a large extent in Illinois. But the closest I ever came to tornadoes was in New Jersey and in New Hampshire. They come down everywhere.
Supposedly a tornado came down in Wardsboro about 20 years ago.
Really?
And there is a path through the forest that whatever happened cut.
They do that. I had a friend when I was living in Illinois. I was a teenager. A tornado came down about, I'm going to say 60, 80 feet from his house. And this tornado was small. It was only about 20, 30 feet across. And it took the trees in the area of the woods near his house where it came down and kind of wrapped them around each other.
Wow.
It was very impressive. Okay.
I would say.
We are up to Sunday, June 18th.
All day.
And we have a picture of clouds and farmland and funny things.
Like wind turbines, huh?
Oh, you think that's what they are? Well, thank you. This is from...
If you look close, you can see that is what they are.
Yes, you can. I'm just kidding. This is from Cosmos magazine.
You know, I am missing the article about this. It just didn't come... I just wasn't able to pull it up. So what does it say?
Countries powered by renewable energy recover faster from economic crises.
Period.
Yeah, and this is important. Ecological Economics, which is the name of a public, I believe it's a peer-reviewed publication, published a study that examined 133 economic crises in 98 countries over a 40-year period from 1970 to 2011. The researchers found that the best predictor, this is incredible, but the best predictor of economic recovery was the amount of renewable energy the country used.
That's interesting.
That is amazing. That, to me, is flat out amazing. The best predictor. You know, I mean, there are a lot of things that they could have studied, like what percentage of the population has swimming pools? What's the percentage of people who have college degrees is another one. Things of that nature are things that the question of college degrees or retirement income, stuff like that, family size perhaps, things like that would be used to study and see what is the best predictor. And what they found was the best predictor was the amount of renewable energy. That's
an interesting parallel. It really is.
It really is. It's amazing to me. Okay, should we go on, Tom?
Yeah, I can't dance. It's got another picture coming up here.
Yeah, this is a weird picture.
Well, according to my article, it says countries powered by renewable energy recover faster.
That's the one we just covered.
Is this good? I got this. Well, okay.
Yeah, the one that we've got now is from Clean Technica, and it's about NASA spacewalkers.
That one I've got. NASA spacewalkers finish installing rollout solar array. A rollout solar array. That's very interesting.
You know, this particular picture is a solar array, and it has a crane in it. And that is the spindliest crane I think I've ever seen. I see these things in spacewalk photographs, and they're always spindly cranes. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, they can be spindly cranes because there's no gravity.
That's interesting, yeah.
What do you have for actually you read the title, didn't you, just now?
Yeah, I did.
Thank you very much. Expedition 69 flight engineers Woody Hoberg and Steve Bowen of NASA concluded their spacewalk after 5 hours and 35 minutes. They completed their major objective. What?
Pretty short spacewalk.
That's what?
Pretty short spacewalk.
Is it? I thought it was long. They completed their major objective to install an International Space Station rollout solar array. The 20 kilowatt array is 60 feet by 20 feet, which is 18 by 0.2 by 6 meters. So now you know as much as I do.
So they brought this thing up to space and just rolled it out.
They do. And obviously it's not one of these polysilicon or monosilicon arrays that we see around usually in Vermont. The solar panels are made of glass. These things are thin film solar panels that can be, wound up into a cylinder and rolled out.
Oh, bingo.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be conservative in space when they send things up in the atmosphere.
Well, this is not in the atmosphere. This is in space. And
it's beyond the atmosphere.
Yeah, you're not likely to run out of space in space.
I think space is space.
Okay. We have an item from the Montana Free Press, which includes a picture of Montana. Although the article doesn't include this picture, I got it from Unsplash also. What do you have for a title?
Renewable energy and health impacts highlighted in the climate trial.
Yes. Okay. Now, we talked about this climate trial last week. A bunch of kids are suing the state of Montana.
This is Held versus Montana.
That's right. Plaintiffs in Held versus Montana, a first-of-its-kind youth climate lawsuit, sought to illustrate both the feasibility of transitioning Montana to fossil fuel-free energy sources and the physical, emotional, and societal dangers of a, quote, business as usual, end quote, approach to climate policy. So these kids, and this,
I don't think it's feasible. I think it's inevitable.
I absolutely agree with you. These kids are suing the state of Montana because it's not doing what it can to do something that is, first of all, feasible, possible, however way you want to put it, inevitable if you listen to Tom and me, and noting the fact that what the state of Montana is doing by pushing fossil fuels is reducing the value of the future, which is what these kids are going to be spending their lives in. So
well, they say business as usual, and it is. I mean, these guys are passing legislation according to whoever it is that pays them.
Yeah. Okay, Tom, if you don't mind, I'm going to move on.
Why not? Can't dance.
Oops, went too far.
Glacier with a train in it.
That's right. I traveled by train across Switzerland from Basel. I went to the other end of Switzerland and into Innsbruck, which was a day's.
That was interesting.
Oh, it was wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. They had cabins in the, and I think they probably had 8 people to a cabin. And I had a seat, but I didn't sit in it. I stood in the hallway outside it, and just watched out the window. Stood there and watched what was going on.
That was absorbing.
Yeah. This article is from BBC, and you have a title for it.
I think I do. Switzerland referendum voters back carbon cuts as glaciers melt.
Yeah, Tom, you're sounding a little bit quiet. If it might be best if you could move. There you go. Got it.
Close to my mouth.
I think you've got it. Voters in Switzerland backed a climate bill designed to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050. The law will require a move away from dependence on imported oil and gas toward the use of renewable sources. The green energy proposals were backed by 59.1% of the population. Now,
I'm surprised it was so low.
I am too, actually, but one thing I could say about this is the thing that appealed to the Swiss voters might have been, most of all, that they didn't want to be dependent on people of other countries. I think
why? They bring money.
I think the Swiss are interested in money, I can tell you, but I think they are very interested in independence.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay. We have another picture, and I'll put it up so people can see it.
There's those funny things again.
There is. That looks a lot like the solar array off Block Island, but it isn't.
You mean the wind array?
You're right, wind array off Block Island.
It does look very much like the one off Block Island.
But it's not the one off Block Island. It says
Scotland.
Is that what it says? Well, no, I think it is in Scotland. Actually, the caption doesn't say that. But the wind turbines at Block Island are arranged in a not in a straight line. The line curves slightly, and that's not what we're seeing here. Anyway, this is from STV News, and that is a Scottish site.
Uh-huh. And it says Scotland could become a world leader in renewable energy.
Yeah.
Now, that's interesting. And
yes,
it could.
It could. Scotland could become a world leader in renewable energy. Actually, I think it already is. An analysis shows researchers for the independent think tank Green Alliance mapped where future green industry clusters might be sited for maximum benefit and found Scotland to be in a strong position to develop them. Well, Scotland is in a strong position to develop them for simple reason, which is that there's a huge amount of development being done in the Irish Sea, in the North Atlantic, in the what is the name of the sea off the east coast of Scotland? North Sea, in the North Sea.
Okay.
And, they could be shipping stuff from Scotland to places like Denmark. Well, Denmark is... because
of Scotland's geographical location, it's in a good position.
It's in a great position. And, Denmark happens to be the home of the largest wind turbine manufacturer in the world, a company called Vestas. And Vestas, by the way, is about 60% larger than another very famous Danish company called Lego, which means that big wind is bigger than big toys. Nevertheless, Vestas doesn't make masts. And, you could make those in Scotland, they could work together. So I'm going to go on to the next picture. And the next
picture of a bus.
It's a picture of an articulated bus from BYD. And this is from
also an electric bus.
Yeah, this is from Clean Technica. I don't know, but I think possibly all of the BYD buses are electric. It's possible that they make hybrid buses. I don't know.
Well, BYD is a Chinese company.
Yes, whose initials BYD mean
Build Your Dreams.
Build Your Dream. That's right. So what do you have for a title?
Cool. BYD electric bus news from Europe.
Yeah. BYD says there are 4,200 BYD e-buses either in operation or on order in Europe. They have covered 235 million kilometers. I didn't do the math to figure out what that is in miles, but I'm going to guess it's 150 million miles, which is the equivalent of reducing 250,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. This is pretty cool, as electric buses are helping to get more people accessing electric mobility options.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's the future.
I don't think anybody's going to use a bus like that in Brattleboro, though.
It wouldn't fit on most of our streets.
It wouldn't turn on most of our corners, I can tell you that.
That's for sure.
Yeah, okay, we're up to Tuesday, June 20th.
I've lost my cursor.
You've lost your cursor. Holy smokes.
There it is. There it is.
Oh, you've got it. Well, I'm glad you got your cursor.
20th.
I want to comment on this picture. This is New York smog, and the Empire State Building is there, but this is not in the poor air quality we just had. This is good poor air quality. The stuff that we had, they had all kinds of pictures on the internet of it, but you couldn't see anything. It's a picture of New York City, and it's just a gray screen. That's how bad it was. This is
Sometimes it doesn't get bad.
Yeah, this is from Clean Technica.
Poor air quality isn't the only way wildfires affect cities.
Yeah, the catastrophic effects of wildfires in Quebec make it clear that a forest's impact, or the impact of its destruction, expands far beyond the forest itself. By making forests more resilient to wildfires, cities can protect their communities. Here are a few ways to do that. Now, the rest of the article obviously talks about ways to protect fires.
I've got the headlines from them. I'll read them.
Oh, good.
There's 4 of them. Cities can become anchor investors in restoration projects across the state.
Nice idea.
And privately managed lands, or across state, private, and federally managed lands.
Yep.
Second one, city agencies such as water utilities can dedicate resources and workforce capacity to support wildlife resilience and restoration. And the third one is city agencies such as water utilities can dedicate resources and workforce capacity to support wildlife. Didn't I just say that?
I don't know.
Oh, yes, I did. Here's the last one. Cities can take greater action against climate change.
Yes, well,
Oh,
okay. That's pretty generalized.
I think it's a duh.
I think it is. But nevertheless, there are ways that cities as organizations can address the questions of climate change.
Yeah, they don't have to be sitting on their hands. There are things they can do.
That's
And one of the things I think I just heard about is they're going to charge money for cars to get into Manhattan.
They are. Actually, we talked about that in our last show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's where I remember it from, I guess.
That's where you heard it from. Okay, our next item is from BYD. I'm sorry, not BYD. It's from Clean Technical. And
Yes, the BYD search for new European factories.
yes,
Now, that's interesting.
it seems that both Tesla and BYD are considering new factories in Europe. The second factory for Tesla and the first for BYD. The two companies are totally committed to manufacturing electric cars and trucks and buses in the case of BYD, actually trucks in the case of Tesla also. But they are quite different in their approach, in their business philosophies. And
Well, if they're trying to sell these buses locally in Europe and places like that,
yeah.
they don't want to have to transport them all the way from China.
Well, the other thing is various places like the United States with its Inflation Reduction Act, you know, we have kind of penalties for things that are built abroad compared to stuff built in the United States. And the result of that is there has been a huge number of factories that have started to be built or have been converted or whatever in the United States, huge numbers of people being hired. And
To avoid these penalties.
what?
Just to avoid these penalties.
Exactly. The penalties
all the
are
way from China.
Yeah, the penalties are pretty stiff. They're not penalties so much as the federal government is giving tax credits if you buy new electric cars. And the tax credits can be $7,500, and you can add to that
But
tax
it's got to
credit.
be an American-built car.
But that's exactly the point. It's got to be an American-built car. And if it's built in China, or for that matter in Germany, it's going to cost more. And the amount that it costs more is the difference in the $7,500 in a tax credit or nothing. So what happens? You have companies like BMW and so forth building factories in the United States, if for no other reason, just so they can get their cars assembled in the United States, because that's a big part of the whole thing. But they want to
Makes
get...
sense to me.
Yeah, they want to have every part of that car they can get made in the United States. So they're building battery factories and all sorts of other stuff too. Okay, our next picture is a picture of Miami.
Could have fooled me.
Well, I thought looking at this that it was a picture of palm trees, but you know.
The palm trees don't quite mix with all the tall buildings.
I think that's true. But those palm trees look like they're a lot taller than the tall buildings.
Well, yeah.
Okay, George, you're being silly. This is from Clean Technical.
Let's move on because it's got a title and I'll read it.
Yes.
Florida enacts car dealers protection law to stymie online sales.
Yes.
Now, that's it.
This is what's happening in places like Florida. The National Automobile Dealers Association is one of the most influential lobbying entities in Washington, D.C. In 2022, it spent an amount of, the amount that it spent on federal lobbying set a record. This is an organization that's spending a lot more than, for example, the National Rifle Association. In Florida...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I'm getting that from the article. It was behind a law that makes it hard for legacy automakers to have any control on the prices of their EVs. Now,
and legacy automakers are like GM and Ford.
That's right. And what they're doing is they're telling the legacy automakers, okay, organizations like Tesla are selling online, but you have got dealers. And those dealers have to be allowed to mark the price of a car up as much as they want.
Well, it is a market, so they can't go too far doing that.
That's true, but it's not helpful for the consumer.
Ultimately, no.
Little guys don't have much say in this. Okay, we're up to Wednesday, June 21st.
That's an interesting picture.
Yes, this is a map.
It's temperatures.
It's the anomalies in the temperatures.
Anomalies in the temperature, yeah. So if it's very, very red or very blue, it's quite a change.
Well, if it's very red, if it's dark red, that means it's much warmer than normal. Now, I want to point something out here. If you look at the Western Mediterranean, it's dark red. If you look at the Baltic, it's dark red. But they're about the same color. But the temperature of the water off Sweden in the Baltic Sea is not going to be the same as the temperature in the Mediterranean off Spain. My guess is it might be 15 degrees cooler. It's just that both of them are 10 degrees warmer than normal.
So that's a little bit deceptive.
Yeah, it's a little bit deceptive. But one of the things that it tells you is, okay, just for example, a couple of years ago, as you might remember, there was a hurricane that developed off the coast of Morocco. And instead of going west the way most hurricanes do, it went north and it hit Ireland. Do you remember that, Tom?
I remember that. Very unusual for a hurricane to hit Ireland.
Really unusual. Circumstances like this, you could have the exact same thing happen again. So, this is something that you have to look out for.
Listen to what the article says. The North Atlantic is experiencing a totally unprecedented marine heat wave. Right.
Temperatures in parts of the North Atlantic are soaring off the charts. Parts of the North Sea are a Category 4 marine heat wave that is defined as extreme, according to NOAA. In some areas, water temperatures are up to 5 degrees Celsius, which is 9 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than normal.
Now, that's very significant.
It sure is.
Water temperatures control air temperatures, and air temperatures control the amount of storms you get.
That's right. That's exactly the point. We could have unbelievably bad storms hitting Ireland or France or Portugal or
England or whatever.
England or whatever. We could even have another hurricane in the Mediterranean, which we had, I forget whether it was last summer or the summer before, but we had it.
That's almost an impossibility.
Yeah, they don't normally happen in places like that. And I'll tell you another thing that has happened during my lifetime, and that is we've started to have hurricanes in the South Atlantic. There were never hurricanes.
Never had them there.
Never had them. And then all of a sudden, about 30 years ago, we started having hurricanes. Very rarely, but we've had a couple of them in the South Atlantic. One of them hit Brazil as a hurricane. Okay.
Well, we have to be careful, and we're starting to wake up to this, of what we do that affects the climate, because it will come back and bite us.
Yeah, well, it's already doing that. Okay. Our next picture is UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Would you buy a used car from that man?
Yeah, actually, I probably would, except that he's not selling any. Okay.
Fossil fuels are incompatible with human survival. Now, I'll say that again.
Yeah.
Fossil fuels are incompatible with human survival, according to this guy in the picture.
Yes, and this is from Clean Technica. World leaders and their representatives are preparing for COP28, which will take place in Dubai, of all places, from November 20th until December 12th. This is obviously some time from now, and it'll last quite a while. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been monitoring those preparations and is less than pleased with what he has seen so far.
Well, he hasn't seen a lot of good news.
I'm gonna put him up. I didn't have him up for people to see him.
Let's all see what he looks like.
That's what he looks like, and one of the things about these COP meetings, COP is Congress is it Congress
Coalition
of
of, I think it is.
Okay.
Congress or coalition, something like that.
Something like that, of parties. And basically what happens in these COP things is that they talk about climate change and what can be done about it. And one thing, I remember reading about one of them, there were like 20,000 people in town because of the thing, but 600 of them were lobbyists for fossil fuel companies.
Now that's interesting. That ought to tell you something.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And it's, I mean, that's just a problem when you have something like that happening.
Well, you know, it's stranded assets that they're afraid of, but it's a fact because fossil fuels are on the way out.
They are.
Even though we still have them, we can't keep using them.
Well, the problem that we've got here is that the fossil fuel companies are seeing that their assets are going to be stranded. The companies that are not fossil fuel companies have to understand that their assets are going to be stranded big time. If the sea rises 15 feet, that could put Miami out of business.
Absolutely, this island country is just going to disappear.
Exactly, and you know the very Republican legislature and governor of Louisiana has told the people who live on the Gulf Coast they're going to have to be prepared to leave because the sea level is rising, which, by the way,
they've actually been doing that.
Yes, that's right. And the sea level is rising, and the oil being pumped out from under their feet is causing the land to subside. That's a bad combination. And Cameron Parish.
All of a sudden, that beachfront house doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And Cameron Parish, which is about the size of Windham County and Bennington County put together, although it has a much lower population. Cameron Parish people have been told, basically all of them, you're going to have to move.
Well, if you don't know, in Louisiana, parishes mean counties.
That's right.
Nothing to do with church.
That's right. It doesn't. Anyway, we should go on to our last story. And I'm going to put this picture up.
It saddens me.
What's that?
It saddens me. We're almost over.
Yeah, we're having such a good time. Okay, this is from the Missouri Independent. I really enjoyed this article because it came from the Missouri Independent, and it's. Go ahead and read the title.
So, Amaranth, Missouri, plans solar farms that can power 95,000 homes.
Right.
Now, that's a lot of homes.
It is, but it's not what I would have expected from Missouri. Amaranth, Missouri announced plans to open 4 solar farms by 2026, sufficient to power a total of 95,000 homes. The investor-owned power utility, which serves St. Louis and eastern Missouri, said it would build or purchase the solar farms with a total capacity of 550 megawatts. Now, that's...
Megawatts is big. Well, megawatts isn't big gigawatts. Smaller than gigawatts.
It's bigger than half a gigawatt, which means that the capacity that they have here is the capacity of a very small nuclear power plant. But it's still kind of, you know, it's important. It's the capacity of a large natural gas plant, something like that. And what they want to do is they want to have that capacity be from sunshine, which I think is really interesting. Now, I should point out that when they say they will build or purchase, it is very, very common for big utilities not to build any solar farms, but just to kind of look around and see who is building a solar farm in their territory. And what they do...
They won't be owning a solar farm, but they're going to be losing customers.
What they're going to do is they're going to go to the people who are building the solar farm and say, oh, you've got a solar farm. What do you want to sell it for?
Aha.
And a lot of these people who are building solar farms are really not prepared to own them. Because they don't want to have to deal with customers, things like that. What they want to do, what they want to do is just build them, and you build them.
Let somebody else operate them who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and if they can't sell them, then they sell power purchase agreements, which means that they're operating them, sure enough, but they've got a constant customer who produces everything, who buys everything they produce.
I'm looking at that picture again, and they certainly could be growing something under those panels.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we talked about agro-photovoltaics, and that makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
Just streams of income.
Yeah, they could have sheep.
That would be a third.
Yeah, they could grow tomatoes. They could have sheep and grow tomatoes.
And potatoes.
And potatoes, that's correct. Yeah. Sheep don't eat tomatoes and potatoes. Okay, we're up at the end of the show, Tom.
Hey guys, it's been a good show, though.
Yeah, it is, and we're going to tell everybody to have an especially lovely week. There it is. It's up to
And we're going to wave goodbye.
What's that?
And we're going to wave goodbye.
That's right. We're going to wave goodbye, and Tom is going to say, y'all come back now, do you hear?
That's just what I'm going to say. Y'all come back and see us now, you hear?
I told you so.